right, good morning, Lagos. Good morning, everyone. This is Follow the Money, brought to you by Nairametrics. Of course, my name is Igodre, and we do this every Monday on this radio station, 8 to 8:30 a.m. Of course, you can catch me on Nairametrics TV for the podcast version of the show. Of course, the podcast version comes with a lot more visuals and infographics, so you can see some of the things I'm saying on screen, like, you know, the words, the figures, the numbers, the charts. You can get some of that on screen. What a week it was last week for the stock market. I don't know what's happening. Like, I thought they were saying selling may and go away, but that's not what is happening, obviously. If you're an investor in the Nigerian stock market, or you have stocks in some portfolio somewhere, you better check it out, because last week was a blast. We did see shares soar, I think by 1.5 or so percent in 1 week. That's not all the time you get stocks do that well. Just to put it into perspective, Nigerian stock market is up 7.4% this month already. I mean, I know June ends today, but it's up by over 7% already, and that is the highest we've seen this year in terms of month-to-date return. Of course, if you compare this to a year ago, we were doing 0.76%. We ended 0.76% June 2024. And of course, we had that, Tinubunomic surge. And typically when you have a new president, stock market tends to surge. And we had that 9% surge in 2023. But before then, the stock market has dropped every single year in June for the last 4 years. Yeah, that's what my data is saying. So 2019, it was a drop. 2020 was a drop. 2021 was a drop. 2022, all in red. But we seem to be on a 3-year streak for the month of June already, with back-to-back gains. Remarkable stuff for investors in the stock market. And so year to date, we're currently at about 16.5%. I mean, at least that's what my numbers are saying, 16.5%. Still lower than the 32% that we had. We were on this time last year to date. I mean, year to date is different from month to date, because when you see month to date, you're looking at the beginning of the month till the period, or the end of the month, or, a period in the month, right? But when you're doing year to date, you're looking at the start of the year until the period that you're looking at during the year, right? So year to date, June 30th, or June 30th, let's even say June 28th, right? Yeah, 27th, I beg your pardon. We're on 16.5%. So looking like we might even close slightly above that today if stocks continue to do pretty well. So 2025 already looking like it's going to be closing the year on a positive note. But let's just go into the market itself. So the all-share index, of course, I mentioned, closed 1.57% in the month of June. And it's now at 119,995.76. We're closer to 120,000. What we said is that 120,000 ceiling looks like we're likely going to crack it. I still remember when we were trying to knock on the door of 100,000 points. Right now we're at 119,995. Now, why is this important? Because people say, why did you call this figures? Don't you? If you watch CNN, you watch some of all those, programs, you always hear them talk about the Dow hitting 20,000 points, or the S&P hitting 11,000 points, or whatever as a record. We have that as well in Nigeria. So ours is the NGX, and the all-share index is what basically, covers the broader index, and that index is at 119,995. So likely to hit 120,000 year to date. And guess what? The entire market capitalization of the stock market is now 75.9 trillion. We're just shy of like 14 trillion or so away from hitting that 100 trillion mark. All it takes is just for maybe the Dangote refinery. He said he was going to list pretty soon. So maybe if he does list, as he plans to, or I think he said he's going to list the fertilizer business. So if he does list that fertilizer business, we could really be getting close to that 100 trillion naira stock market. I mean, not bad, right? I mean, even though we know there are some stocks in the US that's probably just valued more than 100 trillion. In fact, there's so many of them. But 100 trillion naira will be a significant milestone for the Nigerian stock market. Don't tell me now, go, why don't you just dollarize it? No, don't go there. Let's just leave it at that. Anyways, in terms of market breadth, 78 stocks gained. That is a whopping number. 78 stocks posted gains, up from 55 stocks the previous week. So you can see stocks really flying high, and losers were just 27. So I don't know what was it that was driving investors last week. Like, everybody was just happy buying stocks. And this was 2 weeks ago when we were all worried about, that bank forbearance story and all that. But looks like money just poured into the stock market last week and people were picking up stocks. And so the whole lot of shift. Can't really say what the major driver is, because it's not looking like we're going to see blistering results half year. I mean, it's not yet half year, it's about now. So from next week on 2 weeks time, you're going to start seeing results dropping. I don't know, just a wave of investment money coming into the stock market, likely institutional investors or local investors driving stock market growth. But I mean, who cares? Stock market is doing well. And if you're a subscriber to my website, this website is purely for stocks or for people who are interested in investing in the stock market and fixed income market as well, because we do drop nuggets for fixed income. It's called ftm.ng. Then you'll be getting some of these our buy, sell, or hold recommendations, or buy, sell, or hold actions, some of the things that we're looking at. So if you're somebody who's really interested in investing in like making your money work for you, you might want to check that website. It is subscriber only, so nothing there is free. Yeah, nothing there is free. Subscriber only. You just want to check it out, and you should be getting some interesting nuggets. All right, so back to the story. The NGX Premium Index also gained 1.7%, 1.77% to be specific, lifted by Zenith Bank. So Zenith Bank up 16% in just 1 week. I mean, Zenith Bank was like one of those stocks that those companies that were like, forbearance. Look at it, investors went back with force. I was up 16% in 1 week. WAPCO and UBA also drove the premium index. And of course, industrial good index also gained 3.9%, even higher than the premium index. And the consumer goods and insurance index also popped as well. Banking index also doing well, 2.5%. Oil and gas index was the only index that kind of, slowed down, largely due to Oando and Aradel. And to think that Oando posted some interesting numbers during the week, which I probably will get to as we go on the show. All right, so we're going to go to the gainers and losers. This is the part where you want to check whether your stock was among the losers or whether your stock was among the gainers, in your portfolio. So are you ready? Are you ready to go? Are you ready to listen, to see if you had stocks that were, that did pretty well in during the week in your portfolio? All right, so we'll start with the losers. Yeah, I like to start with the losers first. So let's just get that out of the way. For FCMB, down 3.5% to 9.50 kobo during the week. Aradel down 4.15% to 514.50 kobo. Industrial and medical gas down 4.3% to 33.40 kobo. Mayor also down 4.69%. MC Nichols, sounds like the name of a rap artist. And I think it's called Nichols, down 4.82%. Dark Communications also down 6.1%. Bua Foods down 6.46% to 449 naira per share. Oando, like I mentioned, down 7% during the week. And of course, we also had ABC, Associated Boss, down 9%. And then we'll have Multiverse. Multiverse used to lead the gainers table back then, down 9.3%. So this, rounds up the top losers during the week. And of course, we now switch to the top gainers, and John Holt was one of the top gainers. The penny stock this John Holt is no longer a penny stock because now it's trading at 7 naira. I mean, this is it's trading at 7 naira. I don't know what's happening. It's trading at 7 naira and it's up 19%. It always seems to defy odds. This stock. Anyway, Caverton Offshore Support Group up 19.7% to close at 5 naira and 22 kobo. And Guinea Insurance, Guinea Insurance up 20%. And Better Glass, this stock is not just stopping, it just keeps flying. I thought by now it's like going to stop, but Better Glass is up 21%. If you're one of those who is subscribing to our newsletter and you read when we said when we included Better Glass as one of those stocks in our watch list, well, I'm sure you're smiling happily right now. Better Glass is up 21% to 333 naira 95 kobo per share. Can you imagine that? Len Africa up 21%. Champions Breweries up 21%. This Champion Breweries, this stock. Anyway, up 21.9% to 10 naira per share. CWG up 25% to 11 naira 50 kobo per share. And this is just incredible. International Brewery is also up 26% per share. Ellah Lakes up 31.3%. This stock, I'm going to talk about it on this show. And Nimet was the highest gainer during the week. They did announce, I think it was Commercial Papers or something, if I'm not mistaken. They announced they were going to do something during the week, but it's up 60.5% week to date to round up the top gainers for the week. So these were the hottest stocks last week in Nigeria. So if you have any of the stocks in your portfolio, then you got with you the hottest stocks for the week. All right. So what else happened? Industrial and medical gas, which of course dropped 4.3%, said it got shareholders' approval to raise 6.5 billion in a right issue. So maybe that's why the stock paired losses last week, because investors tend to see right issues as, a sign or a signal to sell down the shares of the company. And of course, perhaps that's why the share price did drop last week. The company also approved 80 kobo dividend per share for the week. And Dangote Cement also approved 30 naira dividend during the week as well in its AGM. I mean, so that was the dividend he announced some weeks back, some months ago when he released his number. So the AGM has now approved it, or they've now approved it at the AGM. Shareholders have approved it. Triple G and Company published its full financial 2024 results. Better late than never, you would say. And of course, Ellah Lakes, which I'm going to talk about later. So blistering week for the stock market last week, and it looks like June is going to be a bumper June. The best June in how many years now? In about maybe 8 years or thereabout. Yeah, best June about 8 years. Because the last time we saw June pop like this was in 2017. And let's even see, when was the last time June did pretty well? Yeah, that was in 2017. In 2017, 2017, June ended at 12.27%. Well, I did mention in 2023, it did 9.32% as well. So this is probably the best June in just 2 years anyways. But year to date, it's been the best June since 2017. All right, so we're going to be taking a short break, and then when I'm back, we're going to go through the stories that made the round during the week. This is Follow the Money, brought to you by Nairametrics. Of course, you can check our website, ftm.ng, for our exclusive stock picks. Be right back. All right, welcome back to Follow the Money, brought to you by Nairametrics. Of course, I'm Ugodre, and we're back to the next segment of the show where we'll talk about companies. So I did mention industrial medical gas having a right issue. So the thing is, at this point, I need to throw my glasses here. So the thing is, a lot of this, seen a lot of moves around the healthcare space, either trying to raise money to reduce some of their debt or trying to raise money for capacity expansion. And we see that happen across the medical space. There's a whole lot of opportunity in that space anyway, because, Nigeria's population is quite huge, and there is a lot of deficit in terms of medical equipment and the hospitals and labs and all of that. So, and this is an industry that is pretty capital intensive, and so no surprises we're seeing a lot of this capital being raised. So IMG, as they're called, said it's gearing up for expansion. So got shareholders approval to raise 6.5 billion in a right issue. But what I always don't understand is how companies are trying to raise money and then paying dividend. I guess maybe it's just a way of watering. I don't know. But I mean, if you're looking for money, why are you paying dividend anyways? But I mean, it's Nigeria. And so they didn't only just pay dividend, they also issued a bonus. They also had a bonus issue of 1 new share for every 10 held at a current price of 34.9 naira. So the dividend represented 2.29% yield. Well, I mean, what they only did was approve, the right issue. Maybe they're not going to raise that money now. I don't know, but I still don't get why you want to have a right issue when you're looking for money. Why don't you just use your return earnings, and for whatever expansion you want to use it for, and tell your shareholders you're not going to pay dividend. But I know Nigerian shareholders love dividends, but I mean, it's for expansion. But anyways, they want to raise capital, and so maybe they're assuming that not all shareholders are going to participate in that. So the ones that are not going to participate, you might as well just pay them dividend in it, right? So maybe that's what they're doing. But in terms of performance, IMG's pre-tax profit was up 96% in 2024, mostly driven by a 38% rise in its revenue to 8 billion, and driven mostly by gas sales. So it's not an oil and gas company, industrial and medical gases. So you know what I mean. Huge opportunity in that space, though. Huge opportunity. There's a lot of technology driving that space as well. So this is one stock to really look at. And so the chairman, Aminu Ado, and CEO Ayodeji Oseni both reaffirmed the company's commitment to production expansion, cost efficiency, and innovation. And so they want their shareholders to take advantage of the right issue. So, but I mean, let's see how this goes. Again, I just don't understand why companies want to raise capital when your dividend is not that, when you're paying dividend. We go on to the next company, which is Ellah Lakes. So Ellah Lakes, I don't know, I talk about this company a few times on this show, and the reason why Ellah Lakes always comes here is I can't recall this company having any revenue of any sort. Don't even know how they're listed, but somehow they are right in there, sticking it in and trying to restructure, I guess. So, I mean, during the week, they did announce a bold move to restructure and reposition the business. In their words, they said they've gotten shareholders' approval to raise 250 billion through various equity issuance options. So the proposal will be tabled on the company's EGM, which is slated for July 25th, 2025 in Lagos. And they are also seeking to convert. Yeah, they want to convert existing director and shareholder loans into equity subject to regulatory approval. And that will probably be SEC approval. And kind of sounds like what they did in last year, if I'm not mistaken, when they also converted a 658 million naira in bank loans as well. Or they said they were going to convert some of those bank loans into equity. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was a bank loan that they obtained under the CBN's oil palm plantation development program. So not really sure how they're going to get away with that, but that's what they want to do. And that's what they're planning to do again this time around. So what does it mean essentially? So sometimes you can get a loan from a bank, and if you get a loan from a bank and you can't pay, or you get a loan from anyone, any institutional lender, and maybe paying that loan, it's a little difficult. One of the ways that you can sort that out is to convert that loan to equity. So when you convert that loan to equity, that just helps you sort things out, and you really don't need to pay that loan. That just gives you like a room to breathe. And so no surprises that their share price jumped when they made this announcement. But in terms of fundamentals, Ellah Lakes recorded an operating loss of 281 million as at Q3, I think 2024, if I'm not mistaken. The company's revenue also jumped to 68.7 million, a significant improvement from 416,000 same period last year. Yeah, so they do have revenues now. Okay, that's good. Operating costs remain a concern. With admin and personal expenses still elevated because, they're struggling on revenue, but good to see that revenue is beginning to pick up for the company. The share price, by the way, is up 121% year to date, right? Yeah, so you can see sometimes even companies that declare losses do have share price surges, and looks like he has a share price surge. So the planned capital raise coupled with loan to equity conversion suggests Ellah Lakes is probably serious this time around about capital restructuring. So market is probably looking at this, and we can only but wish them the best of luck and hope that this company will finally fulfill its potential. It's in the agro space, by the way, so in case you're wondering what they do, but you might want to check them out. Ellah Lakes PLC. So we'll move on to the next story. Oando released its Q1 2025 earnings last week. So it looks like Oando is now caught up with a lot of companies in terms of meeting their or reporting their earnings. So I don't think they have any outstanding now. Based on this, but in terms of what they did report a whopping 113 billion profit after tax in Q1 2025, which was almost double what it did the year before at 52.5 billion. So look at that. Oando is now a fully profitable company. Wow. The company's earnings were heavily impacted by 301 billion fair value loss on financial assets modifications, which means they probably could have even done more than this. But it did get some help from tax credit. Yep. So it got a tax credit of 165 billion, and that really helped boost bottom line. Yeah. So sometimes these things can help. And so that is why he was able to report profit after tax. I do like to have, that's why I like to talk about pre-tax earnings and not profit after tax, because when you look at pre-tax earnings tend to give you a better view of a company's performance and sort of removes anything that has to do with taxes. And so if you did want to look at pre-tax numbers for Oando, it did record a pre-tax loss of 52.5 billion compared to a pre-tax profit of 70 billion same period last year. So it did report a loss because of a fair value loss. 301 billion in fair value loss is a significant amount, but doesn't matter. The company seems to be back on track. And revenue, of course, came at a whopping 932 billion naira, up 2%, while cost of sales dropped slightly to close at to reduce gross profit to about 85 billion, or lifted gross profit anyways to 85 billion because cost of sale also dropped. So in terms of total assets, Oando is now at 6.8 trillion, obviously one of the largest oil and gas companies in Nigeria. It still has negative return earnings, but the way it's going, it could clean up these returns earnings by this year. And finally, Oando could just start paying dividend. Can you imagine that? A huge turnaround happening here at Oando PLC. And so this is one to watch. Of course, the share price did drop during the week, but won't be surprised to see it bounce back as we get into July. Next up is Dangote. I did mention that Dangote said it was going to was going to pay dividend during the year. So we did see an analyst report, I think this was from Cardinal Stone, and they said they were upgrading their revenue forecast for Dangote Cement in 2025 to 4.2 trillion, up from an initial 4.1 trillion estimate that they had. And this is despite challenges that they've had across Africa as demand continued to weaken, especially in Ethiopia and, of course, in South Africa, and delays in Senegal. But Cardinal Stone sees Dangote Cement's revenue going up, and they are forecasting margins could hit 58.9% gross and 38.5% earnings before interest and tax. And so much stronger than earlier projections. They do, however, assign a hold rating for investors who entered at 440 naira per share. And so they are setting a target price of 481 naira per share. So, I mean, that's what they're saying. If you are looking at buying Dangote Cement. Dangote Cement currently is on our watch list, not on our watch list at the moment, because we think that the price is slightly higher than where we would like to go in. So, but hey, Cardinal Stone is saying hold if you bought at 414 naira per share. All right, so we go to the last topic, and that is Nigerian pension funds. Pension assets climbed to 23.65 trillion in April, up 1.4% from March. Looks like your pension assets seem to be doing a little bit well, but they still dominate. One of the dominant portfolios is still securities, up 62% in the portfolio, or more like 60% of the portfolio, not up, I beg your pardon. Sukuk and agency bonds also recorded strong growth, while green bonds and T-bills declined. Of course, we've not had any new green bond in a while, so no surprises there. Corporate bonds also fell slightly, but looks like pension asset managers are investing a lot more in infrastructure bonds, which is interesting because that was up 16.8%. And they also seem to be going for short-term loans or short-term commercial papers, because that was up 10.4% as well, month on month. And then private equity investment also increased by 40%, which is quite surprising. So, I mean, that's just percentage increase. It doesn't mean that the money in there is that much, but surprised that pension funds seem to be invested, or seem to have increased their investment in private equity funds as well. Real estate and rights also gained traction of 5.2%. So in terms of the fund categories, we do have Fund 1 to Fund 2, and of course Fund 1, Fund 2 categories, which is usually for people under 49, remains the largest at 9.83 trillion, which is good though. I mean, because you're one of the younger people having the most share of what they've invested in. And Fund 3 and 4 for older contributors and retirees also posted growth. The micro pension showed modest growth, but we do need that segment to grow rapidly. All right, so looks like PFAs appear to be tilting, so basically just tilting towards alternative and offshore asset, which is good. So I think there's an article on Nairametrics coming up later this week. It's going to be looking at pension funds and how they're performing, and that will be interesting to look at. All right, guys. So this has been Follow the Money. I'm brought to you by Nairametrics. What a breeze, what a blast it was last week for stocks. So if any of the stocks here are on your portfolio, you might want to check it out. And of course, later this week, I'm going to be having FTM hot stocks. So we're going to be looking at the top stocks in June and stocks you want to look out for as we get into the third quarter of the year. Wow, we're already half year into 2025. Time flies, wasn't it? All right, my name is Igudri signing off, and until we do this again next week, do have a profitable week ahead. Bye.